The horizon bled fire. Rivers of molten rock tore through the obsidian ridges of Pyrone 7, spitting gouts of flame into a sky already cracked with lightning. The planet screamed with every eruption, yet for Commander Elias Veyra, this world was not an enemy. It was an ally, a vicious one, but an ally nonetheless. The visor of his helmet flickered with readings: surface temperature, ash density, seismic activity. All red, all lethal. The aliens called this place uninhabitable. Elias smirked behind the glass. Uninhabitable for you, he muttered. His squad trudged behind him, armored silhouettes moving across the trembling basalt plain. The air was thick with smoke, but their suits were designed for extremes. Human suits. Human grit. Every step reminded Elias why Pyrone 7 was sacred ground. To live here was to spit in the face of extinction. Commander, came Lieutenant Mara Ivor's voice through comms, sharp and steady. I've got movement East Ridge. 6 contacts. Not human. Elias raised a hand, halting the squad. He crouched, resting one gloved hand on the warm rock. Through the ash storm, faint glimmers of movement caught his eye. Not random. Coordinated. Threx scouts. 6, he repeated. Too small for a strike team, too precise for a patrol. His jaw tightened. They knew we'd be here. Mara's voice dropped. You think. Don't think. Confirm. Elias lifted his rifle, scanning the ridge. He toggled magnification, zooming through the heat distortion. The shapes solidified, lean, insected frames, glimmering kite in armor, weapons alive with humming plasma. Threx. And they weren't wandering, they were waiting. A sour taste hit his mouth. We've been sold out. He opened comms wide. Squad, defensive spread. Use the vents for cover. On my mark. The alien scouts noticed movement. The ridge erupted in plasma fire, blue streaks cutting through the haze. Elias dove behind a jagged outcrop as molten stone hissed under the energy blasts. The squad returned fire, their railguns punching sharp cracks into the storm. Pin them, Elias ordered. I want one alive. The firefight lit the ridge like a lightning storm. One Threx crumpled, pierced through the chest. Another tumbled into a lava fissure, shrieking until the world swallowed it whole. 4 remained, advancing with unnerving precision. Elias rose from cover, fired a 3-round burst, and clipped one across the mandible. It staggered, fell to a knee. Perfect. Mara, smoke! A canister hissed, flooding the field with dense gray fog. Elias sprinted forward, boots striking hot stone, and closed on the wounded alien. It hissed, mandibles flaring, blade flashing out from its forearm. Elias caught the strike with his rifle, twisted, and slammed the butt into its head. The creature collapsed, chittering in pain. He pressed a knee to its chest, rifle jammed under its mandibles. Who told you? He snarled. Who sold us out? The alien clicked, mandibles scraping. His translator struggled with the guttural sounds before shaping them into words. Humans betray humans. Always. The words chilled Elias more than the planet's heat ever could. A shriek tore across comms. Commander! Incoming! Heavy contacts! Elias spun. Through the fog and fire, ships pierced the atmosphere, sleek Threx dropships, their hulls glowing from entry heat. Too many. Far too many for a routine patrol. The ground shook as the first landed, vomiting armored warriors onto the plain. A second descended, then a third. The sky itself seemed to rain enemies. Mara's voice cracked through static. We're boxed in. Elias cursed under his breath. The Threx hadn't just found them, they'd known exactly where they'd be. Which means, someone gave them coordinates. His helmet comm buzzed again, this time on a secure frequency. An unfamiliar human voice spoke, calm, deliberate. Commander Veyra. Stand down. You are surrounded. Surrender your unit, and lives may be spared. Elias froze. The voice was human. Not alien distortion, not faulty comms, human. He opened channel. Who is this? Consider me a mediator. the voice replied. The Dominion offers peace. But they demand proof of loyalty. You. The realization hit Elias like a seismic tremor. Betrayal, not rumor. Not suspicion. Betrayal confirmed. A human was speaking for the enemy. He rose from the pinned alien, dragging it upright like a shield. Peace? His voice hardened, echoing through calms. Tell your masters humanity doesn't bow. Not to Threx. Not to traitors. The mediator's tone didn't waver. Then you will die on that rock. And the galaxy will forget you ever existed. The calm went dead. Elias hurled the alien aside and rejoined his squad. Plasma fire rained down as more Threx advanced, their ranks endless. The ground split, lava gushing upward, painting the sky crimson. Mara shouted over the chaos. Commander! Orders? Elias' eyes scanned the battlefield, lava rivers forming choke points, ridges that could collapse under pressure, vents spewing toxic gas. A death world, but his death world. Orders? He growled. We turn this hell into their grave. The squad tightened formation. Elias fired into the swarm, every shot measured, precise. He felt the ground's fury under his boots, the planet itself roaring. Humanity had bled and burned for survival since its first spark. And on Pyrone 7, they would prove it again. A blast rocked his cover. Heat seared his armor. He stumbled, caught himself, but the ridge ahead exploded. The Threx had brought siege weapons. Massive artillery cannons unfolded, their barrels glowing white. Mara's scream cut through. Commander! They'll level the entire ridge! Elias' mind raced. No reinforcements. No escape routes. Betrayal at their back, annihilation ahead. His squad looked to him, the last line between defiance and ash. He clenched his rifle, eyes narrowing. Then we hold the line. Every inch they take costs them blood. Another explosion shattered the ground beneath them. Basalt cracked, giving way to a roaring river of lava. The squad scrambled, leaping for stable ground. 2 soldiers didn't make it, consumed in fire, their screams lost to the roar. Elias' heart clenched, but he didn't break. Couldn't. Not here. Not now. The Threx advanced, their shadows stretching across the firelit plain. Siege cannons charged, their glow illuminating the ash. Elias' visor reflected the sight, doom incarnate bearing down. He raised his rifle, voice raw but unyielding. You think we're finished? You haven't seen humans fight when we've got nothing left to lose. The cannons fired. The world erupted. The ridge had collapsed into fire. Lava gushed through the fractures, swallowing entire platoons of Threx along with 2 of Elias' own. The blast had deafened half the squad, left the other half running on raw instinct. Smoke blanketed the plain, choking vision, turning the battlefield into a nightmare haze of red and ash. Elias dragged Mara behind a jagged wall of obsidian. Her visor was cracked, one lens spiderwebbed with heat fractures, but her eyes were steady. We're boxed in, she gasped. Not boxed in, Elias replied, scanning the shifting terrain. Funneled. He toggled comms. Squad, regroup on Beacon Delta. A pulsing blue marker flared on their HUDs, the only constant in a storm of chaos. One by one, battered figures staggered into formation, rifles half spent, armor scorched. The Threx advanced through the smoke, shadows of inhuman grace. Their artillery cannons retracted, replaced by infantry waves, the kind designed to overwhelm by sheer relentlessness. Commander, Mara said quietly, if they keep pressing, we won't hold 10 minutes. That's 9 more than they'll last. Elias shot back, though the weight in his chest told him otherwise. They opened fire. Rail slugs tore through the fog, cutting down silhouettes that hissed and shrieked before falling silent. For every Threx that dropped, 2 more took its place. Heat shimmered across the battlefield, distorting shapes until they seemed like phantoms. Then, sudden thunder. Not lava, not artillery. Engines. From the upper ridge, a craft skimmed low, thrusters scorching black streaks into the rock. Its hull bore no Dominion markings. Human-built, but not military standard. A gunship stripped and reforged for survival, painted in scavenger colors. The craft unleashed a torrent of fire into the advancing Threx lines. Plasma cannons swept arcs across the plain, detonating clusters of alien warriors. The ground quaked from the assault. "Commander," Mara breathed. "Who the hell is that?" Elias squinted through the ash. The gunship banked hard, and a hatch slid open. Figures leapt from the craft, landing with predatory precision. Mercenaries. Their armor was patchwork, their insignias mismatched, but their weapons gleamed with merciless purpose. The leader strode forward, helmet retracting with a hiss. A scarred woman, hair braided tight against her scalp, eyes sharp as razors. She raised a rifle in salute. "Veyra," she called over comms. "You look like you could use a hand." Elias almost laughed. "Kara Dren. I thought you'd be dead by now." She smirked, even as she gunned down a charging Threx. "Thought the same about you." The mercenary slammed into the alien flank, creating a window of breathing room. Elias seized it. "Mara, pivot! Cover Dren's team. Let's make this choke point bleed." Together, they carved the Threx advance into shreds. Every rail slug, every plasma burst, every eruption of the lava fields became part of a single desperate rhythm: survival. The deathworld itself fought alongside them, vents belching toxic gas that blinded the invaders while humans pressed forward. Minutes dragged like hours, but at last the ridge fell silent, littered with alien corpses smoking in the heat. Elias exhaled, lowering his rifle. His squad stood bloodied but alive. For now. Kara Dren approached, her mercenaries fanning out to secure the area. "You always did have a knack for choosing the worst battlefields." "Worse for them," Elias replied, scanning the carnage. Her smirk faded. "You know this wasn't random. Dominion troops don't throw themselves into lava storms for fun." Elias nodded. "They knew our position. Someone told them." The mercenary leader's eyes narrowed. "Then you've got bigger problems than Skar's soldiers." Before he could answer, his visor flickered with a priority alert. "Data feed, intercepted comms, fragments of Threx encryption Kara's ship must have snagged." Elias skimmed the translation, and his stomach turned. The Dominion wasn't just striking Pyrone 7. They were building something beneath it. Something that fed on the planet's fury. Mara leaned over his shoulder. "They're tapping the core." Elias' hands tightened on the datapad. "No. They're weaponizing it." Kara's voice cut in. "If they destabilize Pyrone 7, the planet goes supercritical. Star-level detonation. Everything within 3 systems burns." The squad fell silent. Even hardened soldiers felt the weight of that truth. Humanity had survived worse battlefields, but nothing survived a planet tearing itself apart. Elias looked at Kara. "Why help us?" She shrugged. "Threx don't pay mercs. They purge them. I'd rather live." It wasn't loyalty. It was pragmatism. Elias could work with that. "Then you're in. We shut this down." Before they could plan further, another signal intruded, clear, strong, deliberate. Human voice. "This is Envoy Selric of the Provisional Council. Commander Veyra, stand down immediately." Elias stiffened. He knew the name. Selric, politician, diplomat, one of those who'd argued for appeasement treaties while soldiers died by the thousands. "Envoy," Elias said coldly, "you picked the wrong time for speeches." "Not speeches," Selric replied, voice dripping authority. "Negotiations. The Dominion has agreed to spare humanity in exchange for Pyrone 7. Surrender the planet, and billions live." Mara's eyes widened in disbelief. Kara spat on the ground. "Spare humanity? Or chain it?" Elias' chest burned. "Selric, you sold us out. You'd hand over our deadliest bastion for a false peace." "You call it betrayal," Selric countered. "I call it survival. You can't win this war, Commander. But I can end it." Elias' voice dropped to steel. "End it by putting humanity on its knees." The calm went silent. But the damage lingered. His own kind were trading humanity's future for scraps at an alien table. Mara broke the silence. Commander, what do we do? Elias looked at the ridge, the lava, the shattered battlefield. Betrayal gnawed at his gut, but resolve steeled his spine. He pointed toward the fissures where Dominion scanners pulsed deep underground. We go down there, he said. We find their weapon, and we tear it apart. Kara's mercenaries exchanged uneasy glances. That's suicide, one muttered. Elias turned, eyes burning. So is surrender. The words carried weight, heavier than the ash above them. His squad straightened, mercenaries fell silent. They knew the truth. On Pyrone 7, there was no safe path. Only fire. The ground rumbled beneath their feet, a deep tremor that shook dust from the cliffs. The Dominion's machine was waking. Elias raised his rifle, voice calm, deliberate. We move now. Before the planet itself turns against us. They descended into the fissures, shadows swallowed by the fire below. The fissure swallowed them whole. Heat pressed in from every direction, the air thick with metallic tang and sulfur. Lava pulsed in rivers along the canyon walls, casting jagged shadows that danced across the descent. The deeper Elias led them, the louder the planet's heart thundered. Mara's voice crackled over comms, low and strained. Commander, seismic readings are spiking. Dominion tech is buried deep. They've been here longer than we thought. Kara Dren kept pace beside Elias, rifle at the ready. Her scarred features flickered orange in the lava glow. The Threx don't mine. They implant. Whatever they're building, it's fused to the core. Elias said nothing. He knew the truth without hearing it aloud. Pyrone 7 wasn't a battlefield anymore, it was a bomb. And Scar held the trigger. They reached a plateau cut into the fissure wall. Alien machinery sprawled across the stone, spires of black metal humming with stolen heat, conduits burrowing deep into the molten rock. The air vibrated with unnatural rhythm, each pulse synchronized with the planet's tremors. Mara scanned, visor casting a pale blue glow. This isn't extraction. It's conversion. They're channeling energy into a singularity core. Kara cursed under her breath. A planet killer. Elias' jaw clenched. Then we kill it first. Before they could act, the machinery shifted. Panels split open, and from the shadows emerged Dominion guards, towering Threx in heavier armor than any they'd faced above. Their chitin gleamed, their plasma lances burned brighter, and behind them, a single figure descended on a platform of black steel. Overlord Scar. His frame was massive, his carapace etched with ritual scars. His eyes burned with cold intelligence as his voice resonated through comms without need for translation. Commander Veyra, he intoned. Human defiance incarnate. I wondered when you would crawl to the core. Elias leveled his rifle. You're not detonating this world. Scar tilted his head, mandibles curling. This world is not yours to defend. It is chaos embodied. You infest it because you are chaos made flesh. The galaxy rots under your contagion. Kara spat, firing a round into the stone near his feet. You want to preach, or do you want to fight? Scar ignored her. His gaze locked on Elias. You cannot win here. Your council already surrenders. They understand what you do not. Order demands sacrifice. Humanity must be erased. Elias' voice cut like a blade. We didn't survive our own hells just to die in yours. The standoff shattered as the Dominion warriors advanced. Railguns thundered. Plasma scorched the air. The cavern erupted into war. Elias dropped behind a column of alien machinery, rifle barking precise bursts. Mara laid down suppressive fire while Kara's mercenaries surged forward, blades and rifles carving through the enemy line. The heat intensified, steam hissing as molten rivers splashed against stone. Commander! Mara shouted. That core's charging faster, the fight's feeding it. Elias cursed. Every discharge of plasma, every rail slug striking Dominion alloy only accelerated the machine. They were fueling their own destruction. New plan, Elias snapped. Mara, find overload points. Dren, keep the bastards busy. He broke cover, sprinting across the plateau under withering fire. A Dominion warrior lunged, plasma lance slicing arcs through the haze. Elias ducked low, drove his rifle butt into its abdomen, and fired point blank. The alien collapsed in a shriek of smoke and flame. He pressed forward, eyes locked on the machine's pulsating heart. Conduits glowed brighter, molten streams bending unnaturally as gravity warped around the core. Mara's voice rang out. North pillar, weakest joint. A controlled blast could cascade the whole system. Controlled blast, Elias muttered, pulling a charge from his belt. Not exactly my specialty. He slammed the device against the pillar and primed it. The countdown blinked red across his visor, 90 seconds. Skar's voice thundered over the chaos. You would sacrifice yourselves to delay inevitability? Futile. Humanity's defiance ends in ashes. Elias turned, meeting the Overlord's gaze across the battlefield. Better ashes than chains. Skar leapt from his platform, landing with seismic force. His massive blade ignited, white-hot and humming with alien power. The Dominion guards parted, giving him space. The Overlord wanted this personal. Elias dropped his rifle, drawing the serrated combat knife strapped to his thigh. He felt the weight of every death, every betrayal pressing down, and met Skar head-on. Their clash shook the cavern. Blade against steel, sparks showering, the roar of molten rivers echoing around them. Skar's strikes were brutal, each swing enough to shatter stone. Elias parried, dodged, countered with precision honed from decades of war. You fight like prey refusing the inevitable, Skar hissed. And you talk like a tyrant scared of the one thing he can't kill. Elias twisted, slashing across Skar's carapace. Dark ichor spilled, sizzling against the rock. Skar roared, striking back with a blow that sent Elias sprawling against the machinery. His armor cracked, alarms blaring in his visor. Pain flared through his chest, but he forced himself upright. Mara screamed over comms. Commander, 30 seconds. Elias wiped blood from his mouth, knife steady. Not done yet. He lunged again. The two locked in a final, vicious exchange. Knife plunged deep into alien flesh as Skar's blade seared across Elias' side. Both staggered, both bleeding, neither yielding. The charge countdown hit 0. The north pillar erupted in blinding light, shockwaves tearing through the machinery. The Singularity core screamed, its rhythm breaking, conduits rupturing as molten rock poured in. The cavern became an inferno. Dominion warriors shrieked as structures collapsed. Kara's mercenaries scrambled for cover, Mara dragging wounded soldiers to safety. Skar staggered, but even wounded, his voice carried. You think this ends here? Humanity cannot escape what it is. Elias, barely standing, hissed back through blood and smoke. Humanity doesn't escape. We endure. He drove his knife deeper, twisting until the Overlord reeled back with a roar that shook the fissure. The core imploded, firestorm consuming the plateau. Elias was thrown into the lava-lit dark, world spinning, lungs burning. The last thing he saw was Skar's shadow, torn and bleeding, vanishing into the chaos as the planet itself screamed. The cavern was gone. What remained was a furnace of collapsing stone, screaming metal, and molten rivers tearing new paths through the fissure. The Singularity core had ruptured, its energy flooding back into Pyrones 7's veins. The world trembled like a wounded beast. Elias Veyra lay half-buried beneath shattered rock. His armor was scorched, his visor fractured, every breath a knife in his chest. But he was alive. Somehow, he was still alive. Above him, shadows moved. Mara staggered into view, her suit cracked but intact, dragging a wounded trooper with one arm. Kara Dren's mercenaries scrambled across the debris, their leader barking orders with ruthless calm. Against all odds, fragments of both squads had survived. Elias forced himself upright, pain roaring through his side where Skar's blade had cut deep. He looked across the fissure. The Overlord was gone. No corpse. No final confirmation. Just emptiness where he had stood. Mara caught his gaze. He escaped? She rasped. Elias nodded, fury simmering. Skaar was too cunning to die here. He would retreat, rebuild, and strike again. The war was far from finished. But the machine was destroyed. The planet killer was gone. That was victory, temporary, fragile, but victory nonetheless. The ground convulsed, hurling them to their knees. Lava geysers erupted along the fissure walls, ash billowing into the cavern like black storms. Pyrone 7 was furious, unstable, tearing itself apart. Kara's voice cut through the chaos. If we don't move now, this entire fissure becomes a grave. Extraction point? Elias demanded. She shook her head. Gunship's gone. Took a hit during the collapse. Best I can do is a signal for orbit, but no guarantees. Mara's voice sharpened. And the Council's ships? Think they'll save us after Selric cut his deal? The silence answered for him. Elias scanned the trembling chasm, his mind racing. Survival wasn't enough. Pyrone 7 wasn't just a battlefield, it was humanity's symbol. If the planet fell, if Dominion propaganda painted it as a Dominion victory, the message to the galaxy would be simple: humans can't hold their own hells. He wouldn't let that happen. Then we don't escape, Elias said quietly. We make sure no one forgets what happened here. Mara stared at him, realization dawning. Commander. Not optional. He cut her off. Get the wounded topside. Signal what's left of orbit. I'll finish this. Kara's eyes narrowed. Finish what? The machine's dead. Elias turned his gaze to the core's remains. Energy still bled from fractured conduits, raw and unstable, feeding directly into the fissure's molten heart. Pyrone 7 could be silenced, not destroyed, not detonated, but silenced, its fury turned into a weaponized warning. He limped toward the wreckage, pulling his last charges from his belt. Mara moved to stop him, but Kara caught her arm. Let him. He's already decided. Elias keyed his comms to squad channel. His voice came steady, even as stone fell around him. Listen to me. If you make it off-world, carry the truth. Tell them humanity didn't bow. Tell them we turned hell itself into our shield. Mara's voice cracked. You don't have to do this alone. I already do, Elias answered, and cut the channel. He climbed onto the fractured machine, every movement agony. Flames licked the conduits, energy arcing in chaotic bursts. He jammed the charges deep into the breach, syncing them to his suit's biometric trigger. No timer. No remote. Just his pulse. A shadow fell across him. Skaar. The Overlord emerged from the smoke, wounded but unbroken, one arm hanging limp, mandibles glistening with ichor. His blade still burned, though weaker now, flickering like a dying star. You persist, Skaar rasped. Even at the edge of death, you refuse surrender. It is why you must be purged. Elias steadied himself, gripping his knife with one hand, the detonator cord running to his wrist with the other. And it's why you'll never understand us. Skaar advanced, each step shaking the platform. You cannot kill me, human! I am inevitability. Elias' lips curled into something between a snarl and a smile. So am I. They clashed one last time. Knife against burning blade, sparks showering as molten energy surged around them. Elias' strength waned, but his resolve sharpened with every strike. He wasn't fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting for memory. Skaar drove him back, blade searing across his chest plate. Elias staggered but did not fall. With his last breath of strength, he jammed the knife into the Overlord's abdomen, twisting hard. Skaar roared, mandibles thrashing, but Elias leaned in close, voice a whisper only the alien could hear. Humanity doesn't break. It burns. He slammed his palm onto the detonator. The charges ignited. The fissure erupted in a storm of light and fire. Energy cascaded through the machinery, shattering conduits, consuming the core in white-hot brilliance. Lava surged upward in a tidal wave, swallowing Skaar's roar, swallowing Elias himself. Above, Mara and the survivors scrambled out of the collapsing chasm as the ground convulsed. They reached the surface just as a column of fire burst skyward, splitting the clouds. The eruption lit the horizon for miles, a beacon seen from orbit and beyond. Kara's mercenaries shielded their eyes. Mara sank to her knees, visor reflecting the inferno below. Her voice trembled, but carried conviction. He did it! He turned Pyrones into a warning. Orbitside, sensors across every fleet, human, Dominion, neutral, registered the blast. For a moment, the galaxy held its breath. Humanity had not surrendered. Humanity had burned brighter than anyone thought possible. But as the fire faded, a message pulsed through intercepted Dominion channels. Not silence. Not despair. A vow. Overlord's car had survived. Scarred, broken, but alive. And his voice carried across the stars. Humanity has chosen fire. Then fire shall be their eternity. Mara closed her eyes, whispering into the comms, not to the fleet, not to the council, but to Elias himself. We'll carry it. Every word. Every fight. You won't be forgotten. The survivors looked to the sky, where the eruption still blazed like a second sun. Humanity had lost a commander. But they had gained something else, an unshakable symbol. The galaxy would remember. Ending twist, Elias sacrificed himself to destroy the core, but Scar survived. Humanity won a battle, not the war, and their greatest enemy now bore a personal vendetta.